G'day, this is Milton Kane. I'm the Christian Democratic Party candidate for the federal seat of Newcastle. In recent days there's been much talk about coal seam gas. There are many people who are supporting of the coal seam gas extraction. There are many people concerned about it. There are many people who are concerned for environmental reasons, and particularly the major environmental concern is the contamination of groundwater. We get some people telling us that it is a safe method, but I'm not convinced. The fracking method, which basically is a method of drilling a hole and putting some chemicals down and causing a break where the coal seam gas is trapped, and then causing that to come to the surface by various methods. Now the problem with that is there's too much out of control. There's a few issues about the thickness of the pipe, whether the pipe that is bringing the gas through the various levels of soil and anything else that's there, whether or not that will remain intact the whole way through. The method itself, the so-called fracking, is also a matter of concern because it is not an exacting science. People in the industry claim that there's very little impact on the environment. If we were to assume that they are correct, then I suppose we should go ahead. But my concern is if they are not correct, what is the result? Well, basically what happens, the groundwater gets contaminated by this gas, and that renders the groundwater pretty much useless. Now, it's not like it's going to just affect the groundwater in a very small area. We have some artesian basins which are quite massive, some which are, in fact, hundreds of kilometres long. So when we consider all of that and the possible impact, we need to be more precisely correct that we're not going to have a problem. While it is true that the gas itself will probably burn far cleaner than that of coal, what we actually have to consider is what's going to happen if something goes wrong. It's one of those things that once you've done the problem and the problem has developed, how are we going to stop it? The method of its contamination is quite horrendous to water. I am concerned. The people who have been examining whether coal seam gas is good, bad or indifferent are people who have been employed by the coal seam gas industries. Now, it is true that the coal seam gas companies should in fact pay for any investigation to make sure that the method is safe. But should they have a direct contact with the company? I think not. You see, these sorts of things, they need to be independently examined. Many years ago, we actually had a very wonderful organisation, the CSIRO, and they used to do a lot of investigation into things, and they tended to be very unbiased in their way of looking at things. I do not know whether or not they have that still unbiased attitude or if they are affected by the political turnabout of events. It is unfortunate that we have today many people who are supposed to be independent who are actually doing the bidding, as it were, of the government from time to time, the view of the government, and they will take a less stringent view on various matters because it's deemed to be appropriate to come out with a certain outcome. It is really bad that in fact the Yes Minister, from Humphrey's point of view, is that you don't set up an inquiry to look into something unless you know what the outcome is, and to find out the outcome you choose a chairman that's going to deliver the verdict that you want. We don't want that sort of inquiry into coal seam gas. We need something better than that. We need to make sure when we investigate the coal seam gas, we can be totally 100% confident that it's going to be safe. Whilst I do not recall the name of the individual, I remember reading probably 12 months ago about an Israeli scientist who was employed by Shell of America. And he looked at the fracking method used in the United States and he was unhappy with it. And he is currently working, as I understand it, in Israel, trying to find a good method of extraction. I have of recent days attempted to try and find out who that person is, but I cannot at the moment. But it seems to me that as a part of the inquiry, I would like to find out what the Israelis are doing, because one of the things which is so important about what the Israelis do, they are very concerned about their water. They've had a good year this year with a lot of rain, but up until now they've had a drought for a very long time. And they do not wish to damage their water in one iota. So it seems to me that we need to have a careful examination and look at what other people around the world are doing, what their scientists are coming up with, and their opinions as to whether it's safe or not. For the present, as far as I'm concerned, the coal seam gas should stay in the ground until we actually have a verifiable, provable, safe method of extraction. And when we do have that, then we've actually got to consider the rights of the owners of the people, who are the owners of the land. These people who own the land, we've got to consider their rights. We can't just walk over them and simply say, we're going to drill a hole down here, mate, because we know there's gas down there. That's not on. We need to work out a good system. We need to protect our land, our food-producing land. We need to protect our cities. We need to protect our housing, as I relate in other issues that I have mentioned in the past. We cannot just simply say there's gas there and just move aside for us to drill a hole. It has to take into consideration the current use of the land. And we actually need to get agreements from those people that it is appropriate and wise to do so. I'm very concerned in the Newcastle area, particularly because we actually have the Tomago sand beds. And that is one area which has been targeted by the coal seam gas companies. I believe it's unwise and inappropriate to potentially damage that water that is, I guess, some of the backbone water for Newcastle and the surrounding areas. Those Tomago sand beds supply plenty of water for domestic use. Contaminated, that will be cut out of the system. We do not know what the longer term impact will be because we haven't examined the full detail. With all these things, it's very important that we do a thorough examination, making sure that we are confident that what we do is safe. One of the interesting things is the value of the coal seam gas will not change much while it's in the ground. But the land around it, the water resources around it, if contaminated, will no longer be able to perform perhaps the function that they are today. We need to look after our environment. We need to be very careful on what we do. As I say, I'm not opposed to the principle of extracting coal seam gas. Just make sure the method is absolutely guaranteed safe. That's the issue. It must be safe. Without that safety, I want the gas left in the ground. Thank you.